Hey everyone. Let's all just take a deep breath today. I feel like there's been this kind of like zoomy energy, but not really. It's kind of been like this push to get things through and get things done. Hey, how's it going? Thanks for coming on. Um, yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Hi, thanks for coming on. So, for those of you who have not been here before, I think we have a few newcomers already, which is crazy and awesome. My name is Rachel Leah Gerson, and I'm a metaphysical practitioner at Doorway to Self, where I marry together counseling techniques with psychic tools to help you understand yourself better as a human being. Because if you're human, you're psychic. That's just how it works. This is not a gallery reading. What that means is that this is not a place where you come to be like, tell me about my future, because I likely will not answer. There's only been one time where I've answered somebody about something like that, and it's only because it like flew into my whole being was like, you have to tell this person what they're asking for. But I mean, that rarely happens. Hey Haley, thanks for coming on. So yes, this is not a place to ask for advice on what your future looks like or whether or not a romantic relationship is going to work for you or whatever. Hey, Jenny. This is more of a place where you can ask about the psychic world in general and how you work, right? Like I said, if you're human, you're psychic. So you are experiencing whether it's psychic sight or psychic hearing or feeling energy, right? Either internally or externally. Maybe you smell energy, maybe you taste energy. Hey, Angelica, thanks for coming on. Chad, hey. So yeah, this is the place to talk about that stuff. Talk about your experiences. What have you been feeling lately, or what's a crazy thing that's happened to you, and you have a question about it, and you're looking for some advice or some help in that area. So that's what this place is for. How this works is I will answer questions as they come in. So when you have a question, if you're on Facebook, there's like a little thing on the side of your video, or if you're on your phone, it will be on the bottom of your screen. Same thing with Instagram, on the bottom of your screen. And it just says, on Instagram, it says comment ... On Facebook, it says write a comment ... And you just go into that box, you type your question, you send it, I answer it. Sometimes that answer might look like, I don't know what this is, and I will do my best to research what the answer actually is and what that might be, and get back to you on that if that's the case. But more times than none, I am able to answer. So any questions you may have, I would love to hear them. Throw them at me. What you got for me today? In the meantime, I'm going to blab on about things and life until questions start coming in. So one thing I want to talk about with you guys today, as we're waiting for questions, is that tomorrow is the very last day to get early bird pricing for this weekend, which is Doorway to Mental Health. An experience. I'm really excited for it. Saturday all day is going to be workshops on psychic mental health, right? So we're doing Psychic Abilities 101, which is, hey, thanks for coming on, which is diving into, like I said, sight, hearing. We have all of these different types of psychic abilities. And so it's diving into what might those psychic abilities look like? How might they appear in your life? That one is going to be live streamed as well. So if you can't make it to the event, if you're out of town, like I know a few of you who are watching right now live up north or in the Detroit area, you can hop onto Facebook and check it out. I will be, or Instagram. I might live stream it on both. I think I will. So that's a thing. It is donation powered. So if you feel like you want to support psychic education and what I'm doing here, you can check out my Patreon page, and that goes for the psychic Q&A stuff as well, right? Patreon.com/doorway to self. So yeah. Anywho, so that's the first class, and then we'll be doing psychic not sick. We'll be doing mental astrology for mental illness and mental health. We'll be doing so many things Saturday, and then Sunday we'll be doing an experiential day, and that one is only open to 8 people, and there are 6 spots left. So if you want to join in on this, get in on it quick so that you can get the early bird pricing and a spot, because if the spots are gone, you screwed. Anywho, okay, let's see. Tracie. Hi, Tracie. Tracie says, how do you know when you've seen, felt, sensed, etc. a spirit around you? I think my baby brought someone with him from the other side. Wow, that's really intense. And that's actually something that's that is pretty normal, right? When we have 2 times in our life, if we're not like, actually, let me retract that statement. I was going to say we have 2 times in our life when we're most deeply connected to the other side, but some of us just are in general. Hey, Perry. Some of us, you know, if we have mediumship qualities, and especially if we don't know how to use boundaries with spirit beings, then yeah, okay, I completely retract that statement. Okay, let me try and answer you better. Hey, Kelly. So babies are coming specifically from another place, right? Energy can neither be created nor destroyed, which means that before this baby was a human, it had to have been something else somewhere else, which means that it was probably chilling with some other things. And as it came over to this side, to Earth, it's possible that it could have brought those other things through. More times than none, these things that come with children are usually spirit guides. So they're usually beings that are watching over your children, and they're here to guide them through life, or just the first part of their life, or whatever it is. So usually it's really benevolent, and it's actually helpful for it to be there. If it's something that's malevolent feeling, which is also possible, right? If a baby's coming in from the other side and some malevolent being who's like, oh, hey, thanks for hopping on. Some malevolent being is like, ooh, I have a free ride into the Earth portal, and then it grabs a hold of the baby and comes through. That's also possible. In that case, I would say, I would say, you know, use your discretion, use your boundaries. But your question is, how do you know when you've sensed it? How do you know when you've sensed a spirit around you? And I suppose my answer for that is, you just know. We're taught as humans to second guess things all the time, and especially within the spiritual realm, we're taught, oh yeah, that's not real, that's imaginary. So it's normal for us to have the reaction of, was that real? Did that actually happen? I don't know, blah, blah, blah. But chances are, unless you're somebody who suffers from really, really high anxiety or paranoia, chances are that you have likely you've likely been feeling what you think you're feeling, that there's a spirit actually there if you believe it's there. I like to say that the psychic world is really, really simple. It's a lot simpler than we think it is, even within all of its complexity. And really, the rule of thumb, I think, is if you think it's there, it's there. Tracie says it's definitely a malevolent feeling. Yeah, so, you know, I mean, if you are feeling like you need to go into mama protection mode, and you're like, I really need to do something about this, I would suggest first asserting your boundaries over it and saying, you're not welcome here. Why are you with my kid? This is not cool. Go back to where you came from. You're not welcome. See ya. If the thing doesn't listen, which more times than none, if you're like, I'm not taking any crap from you, you get out, they'll be like, ah, dang it, I have no chance, and they'll leave. But you know, if it's one of those that kind of lingers, my first thing is going to be to tell you to look within and see if there's any part of you that actually wants it there. And I know that sounds really strange, but a lot of the times, if we're being really honest with ourselves, there's some part of us that, like, there's something thrilling about that, right? Like, there's something thrilling about, ooh, there's a scary thing, and now there's all this drama that I get to be sucked into. And I'm not saying that that's your story or that that's your case, but I'm saying that, you know, I've seen a lot of clients who have had that. I, in the past, experienced that as a teenager. So, you know, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's what our culture has taught us, right? Through scary movies or through the internet or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, like, oh, this thing, this drama that's so, but you know, it's because it's out there and it's otherworldly and it's a story to tell and it's a way to feel special, right? So if you follow this trail and you're like, oh, okay, why do I actually want this here? Okay, yes. Like, listen to your body, be real honest with yourself. Listen to your body. Do I want this here? Okay, I have to be honest with myself. Yes. Well, why do you want this here? Oh, because it's really exciting. Okay, well, why is it exciting? Because it means that I'm special. Okay, well, why does it mean that I'm special? Because this doesn't really happen to anyone else. Well, why do I need something to happen to me that doesn't happen to anybody else? Why do I need to feel special? Hey, Maria, thanks for coming on. So I hope that answers your question for you as far as, you know, how do you know if it's actually there, and what do you do if it is malevolent, and how do you handle that? So yes. So, oh, well, I guess I didn't really finish answering. So yeah, part 1 would be to tell it to just go. Part 2, if it doesn't listen, ask yourself, is there some part of me that actually wants it here? Because if that's the case, it's going to energetically sense that it's not going to take your boundaries seriously. It's going to stay. Sorry about that. I got a sales call. Anywho, and then part 3 would be to go back after you do that shadow work, after you do that deep looking within, and to reassert the being and say, get the hell out of my life, and be really firm in it, now that you know why you're acting the way that you're acting. And then if it doesn't leave at that point, then you can always cleanse your house, light some cedar or sage or palo santo or something like that. Anything that might clear your house or your room or your baby. Of course, be really careful not to get too much smoke in your baby's lungs if you're going to do that. So use your discretion around your babe. Yeah, that's about it. Let's see. No other questions. Okay. Well, I did have a few things that people asked anonymously, so I'll go ahead and start answering those. And if you have questions in the meantime, or if what I'm saying sparks a question, pop it in the box and I'll get to it. I really want to thank all of you guys for being here. I'm going to be real honest with you guys about something right now, for a minute. You're about to see me real and raw here. I have been really questioning whether the world is ready for what I'm putting into it. And so all of you being here and showing up and wanting to do this, it's helping to make me feel a little bit better about that. So I really, really appreciate you being here and your support of yourself in this area of your life, and your support of Doorway to Self and psychic education. And it's just really awesome to have you guys here. I'm super, super grateful. So yeah. Okay, Tracie says, thank you. By the way, you told us about 2 years ago that we would have another baby and it would be a boy, and that's exactly what happened! Oh, that's so cool! Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love when people affirm things like that. You know, it's really important. I think it's really important for us to affirm each other with our psychic senses, because there is so much of society that's like, no, 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 that's not real. That, you know, when you can have that opportunity to give somebody the chance to be like, oh my gosh, that is real, then it can just be a really empowering thing. So I thank you for that, because even I need that sometimes, you know? So thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so actually, Tracie's question is a really great lead-in to one of the anonymous questions that was asked in between. Somebody messaged me about last month's Q&A, and they were curious about, we were talking about spirit attachments, and specifically a reader had told the person who was asking a question, a reader had told them that they had a spirit attachment and that it was malevolent. And I got on my tangent and on my soapbox about practitioners who are just trying to get attention and just trying to keep you hooked and just trying to keep you coming back to them. And it turns out, so this person messaged me later and she's like, well, I'm really confused because I actually felt really, hey, thanks for coming on. I really felt really good about working with this practitioner and what she said, and I really felt like what she said was true. And the practitioner that she had mentioned was actually somebody that I really trust, and her specialty is spirit attachments. And it's not necessarily like other world spirit attachments. It could be also just like negative energy that's been floating around that's just kind of attached to you because you're vibing a little low one day, and then all of a sudden it, you know, magnetizes to you, and there you go, you have an attachment. So hey, Autumn, thanks for being here. So yeah, I do want to just add this this little addendum to that, because there are certain practitioners who are out there who are working on a real level to help people with those spirit attachments. Yeah, and that's a real thing. So I just say, you know, use your discernment. Like this person who emailed me, they were like, I felt really good about it. I felt like it was a real thing, and it made a lot of sense what she said to me. It gave me a lot of peace to know that that's what was going on. And if you're filled with peace rather than fear, that's usually a really good indication that whomever you're talking to and whomever you're working with is actually in it for real and not just to hook you and try and manipulate you into feeding their ego, getting you to continue working with them, taking your money, whatever it is. So I just wanted to clear that up. All right, let's see. Do we have any questions? You guys, okay, so I've noticed this pattern that you guys are usually like really quiet in the beginning of this thing, and then all of a sudden like 40 minutes hits and I'm like, okay guys, we're almost done, and then like 6 questions flood in and whatever. So seriously, if you have a question, go ahead and pop it in the box at any point in time. So, okay, so I guess in the meantime, while I'm waiting for you guys to formulate some curiosities, I'll go ahead and read this next question. So this person, this is really a situation. So this person asked, there is a practitioner who I've worked with in the past who did some really concerning things and is now opening their own practice. And I am getting really anxious about it and I don't know what to do. What do I do? So this is really sticky. This is really sticky. The first thing I would say is confront the practitioner and say, just have a straight up conversation with them. Say, you know what? When I was working with you before, I really disliked what you did to me or with me in terms of XYZ, right? So I really disliked that you pulled another spirit in the room to work with without my consent. Or I really disliked that you started doing energy work on me without my knowing. Or I really disliked that you hooked and courted me and started using me and stealing my energy. Whatever it is. I mean, there are some really skeevy practitioners out there, you guys. It's really important. Hey, Michelle. It's really important to make sure that you know exactly who you're working with. Know what their background is, know what their ethics are, know what their boundaries are. And if you're not sure, ask them. And if they can't answer you straight, then there's a problem. And I'm actually hopefully putting out an article on a pretty big time blog here that's not my own about this really soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. That should be coming within the next couple of months about how to choose a practitioner and how if your practitioner is unethical and what kinds of questions to ask them and things like that. So that's what I would say first is definitely confront the practitioner directly. More times than none, there's so much stigma around, okay, firstly, okay, here's the soapbox, guys, I'm on it. Firstly, there's so much stigma around, the psychic world, and so a lot of practitioners learn what they do and how to act and how to behave from media, right? From movies, from TV shows, from internet memes, whatever it is. That's how they learn how to operate, which is usually through a lens of mystery and mystique and, kind of like this, ooh, whatever. If you're working with a practitioner like that, get the hell out. But most of the time, they don't even know that they're doing that is wrong, right? Because it's all they know. And so there's this kind of thing that happens where they're like, oh, I'm a psychic, right? I'm a professional psychic, and I need to act in this way. And so when you call them out and you're like, look, it makes me really uncomfortable when you hide information from me, and that's not okay with me. It makes me really uncomfortable when you hook my energy by trying to reel me in with this air of mystery. Like those are unethical things. And if you call them out on that and make them really think about that and start to think about that, then chances are they'll actually start to do some thinking about it and going, wait, why can't I just be real? Like, why can't I just be a normal human? Why do I have to have this air of mystery in order to give what I do any sort of credence? So, there's that ignorance. But then there's also this kind of like, this new starseed movement, which I love. I mean, I consider myself to be a starseed. I consider a lot of the people I hang out with to be starseeds, my partner, a lot of my family members actually also. But because of that and this whole like big awakenings thing, which is all great and dandy, a lot of people think that just because they're awakened, all of a sudden they can heal the world. And guess what? Firstly, no one can heal the world. So check that off your list. And secondly, it's really dangerous, because just because you're, quote, awakened and you now know what the energy world is, doesn't mean that you've done the looking within, doesn't mean that you've done your own work. And I'm really speaking from experience here. I never had a, quote, awakening. I grew up my whole life knowing what I know about myself, knowing the existence of the spirit realm, knowing all of that stuff. But because of that, I was like, ooh, I know more than other people and I can teach them and I can be their almighty teacher, without looking within and seeing, oh, okay, this is where my ego is. This is what strokes it. This is what it feels like to actually fill up with myself and not take on other people's energies as my own because it feels better. And I think I'm more powerful because of it. You know, I mean, there are all of these things that can happen. When a person goes through a quote awakening and all of a sudden they're like, oh my gosh, I'm enrolling in a Reiki 3 mastery course for like $200 and it's going to give me a certificate and I can work on anybody I want and I don't even have to look at myself. I have a lot of frustration about this, guys. Let's see. Autumn says also discernment doesn't always go with awakenings. Discernment doesn't always go with it. Yes, absolutely. And actually I'm seeing that more and more, you know, where there's this kind of like doe-eyed trend that's going on right now, right? Of like, oh my gosh, did you feel that? That was energy. Oh my gosh, do you feel that? And maybe that energy is a really malevolent being who's just there, right? Being like, mwahaha, I can feed off of all the newbies because they can sense me and they don't know shit. So yeah. Hey Chris, thanks for coming on. Hi Elise. Hey Katie. Elise says we're all star seeds, lol. Yeah. Totally. So yeah. That's my thing about that. I agree. There's a lot of naivete going on right now, which is a lot of why I do what I do, right? Because this education piece is so important. We can't keep having all of these people with these huge awakenings who are stepping out into the world to off themselves and other people spiritually without even knowing that that's what they're doing. Speaking from guilty conscience here. So yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up with that. So yes, confront the practitioner. If the practitioner is in complete denial and they're like, oh, I don't know what, no, that you're stupid and you don't know what you're talking about. And, there's a reason you hired me as your practitioner because I know more than you ever will. And I mean, there's some really nasty things that practitioners who shouldn't be practitioners will say. So, yeah, if that's the case, I would go about making sure that you're not endorsing them, right? So for instance, if they send you, I've been doing this with a lot of practitioners lately. A lot of people who have come into healing fields have been sending me Facebook requests to like their business pages. And I will not like any practitioner's business page without knowing what they are doing, if they know what they are doing, if they know who they are, all of that stuff. I flat out send like legitimate questionnaires to them via Facebook Messenger, and ask like, okay, so what are your ethics? What are your boundaries? Have you done shadow work? What are your grounding and centering practices? Blah, 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 blah. This is all stuff you guys can do too. Hey, Brookie. Brooke, by the way, who just joined, is definitely on my list of okay energy practitioners, and actually more than okay. Like, Brooke is really brilliant. So if you live in Florida and you want to work with her, I would absolutely 100% suggest that, because she's fabulous. And she also does a lot of really cool stuff on social media too. So follow her. Anyways, it's B.A. Rosenblum, at B.A. Rosenblum on Instagram. Yes, that's the thing. Anyways, hey, Shar. So yes, confront the practitioner. If the practitioner gets pissy with you, make sure that you, don't endorse them, right? So don't like their face on their face on Pagebook, well, their page on Facebook. Don't follow their Instagram account. If someone else asks you, do you trust this practitioner? What was your experience like with them? Be honest with them. Say that you had a bad experience. Say that you're really, really concerned about their own ethical practices. If it's really terrible and it's to a point where you're like, this person is probably harming a lot of people, maybe even write a review on their page, you know? I would, but here's why I said confront the practitioner first, right? Like if I did something that was unethical in a session of mine, and I mean, it can happen with anyone, you know, I mean, there can be something that's just really triggering to somebody that I'm not aware of. And if I do that in session and that bothers them, well, you know, I won't know about it if they don't tell me. So I would really prefer for people to tell me first. And then I can be like, oh, you know, I didn't know about that. I'll be a lot more conscious of that next time. And then we can go about doing that. You know, but if the person, like I said, is just utterly defensive, leaving a review on their Facebook page, or any sort of account of theirs, do it, because then other people can see that. And on the one hand, I'm like, no, that's so mean, don't do that. But on the other hand, it's like, it's really important to let other people know so that they can stay protected. Like I said, there's just so much ignorance going on right now. There's so much naivete of like, oh, there's an energy practitioner and I can trust them because they have such a certificate and, you know, they can do XYZ and, you know, whatever it is, they know the energy world, so they must know what they're doing. There's so much naivete going on right now that it's just really, really important to stay informed and keep people informed that, guess what? Those people can be just as skeevy and just as messed up and just as unethical as a person on Wall Street. You know, it's a thing. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. Autumn says, gotta go, can't wait to finish later. That's what she said. Thank you so much. This conversation is so necessary. Well, Autumn, if you're still watching, thank you. Thank you for being here. And I agree, absolutely. Wow, y'all. Okay. No questions right yet. Okay, well, if you're new here, we've got about half an hour left for questions. So just pop them right in the box at the bottom of your screen that says write a comment or comment ... And you can just put them in the box and I will answer them. So in the meantime, I also just want to, while we're waiting for questions, I just want to let you guys know who are new on right now, that tomorrow is the last day for early bird sales for this weekend, which is Doorway to Mental Health. I'm doing a full weekend. If you're really enjoying this Q&A, it's going to be a full day of this, a full day of this, and then the next day is going to be some really deep, intensive personal diving. So day one is going to be all workshops surrounding psychic health, mental health, things like that. May is National Mental Health Awareness Month, so I'm trying to raise some awareness in a new way. And I would really, really, really love to have you guys there. So yeah, I'm gonna actually even pop the link right into the Facebook event here into the comments so that you guys can see it and click it if you want to check it out. And all of the class descriptions are on there. All of the ticket information is on there, everything. If you're on Instagram, it is in the link for info/tickets is in my bio as well. So it's, I think it's under like May retreat or something like that. So yeah, feel free to check that out. There are only 6 spaces remaining for Sunday / for the entire weekend. So if you're wanting to show up for the whole weekend or for a Sunday day ticket, hop on it because they're gonna go. They're gonna be gone. So yeah, get yours now. And then as for Saturday, individual classes are for sale in addition to group tickets, or excuse me, to the whole day tickets or to weekend tickets. Like I said, weekend tickets are limited to 6 just because Sunday's limited to 6. But yeah, let's see. Elise says, while we don't have a formal certificate or degree for this line of work, what would you define as your markers for being ready to do what Spirit calls you to do? I love this question. You are so wonderful. Thank you, Elise. Oh my gosh, so many things. Okay. Let me think about this for a minute. Where to start, really, because I've thought about it a lot, but where to start? Because this is a big question and it's so necessary. Oh, and then you say, I feel like Spirit is directing me into situations where I can be of help for people consistently, and this includes within my artwork. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so the first question that's probably the most important is why? Why are you wanting to do this work? And that in and of itself can let you know if you're ready, okay? If you would have asked me, I don't know, 8 years ago, why I wanted to do this work, my answer probably would have been because I felt like it was my job to bring people to my level. Which is not a good answer. And the reason being because if you're looking at people as being on levels, right? If you're looking at yourself, if you're saying up to my level, it means that you're looking at yourself as up on high, right? You're looking at yourself as higher up than them, which means you're looking at them as lesser than. And that's not good. There's no way to help people if you're looking at them as lesser than you. So that would be the first thing, right? Ask yourself why. If the answer is anything to do with because it makes me feel good, which it should make you feel good, right? This isn't completely selfless work. This work makes me feel fabulous, and that's a huge reason. That's a huge part of why I do it, but it's not the sole reason why I do it, and it's not the majority of the reason why I do it. I do it now because I know that it's needed. I know that it's necessary. And because I see the transformations that people go through, and it is just, I have no words for how inspiring it is. And to know that I'm helping those people to help themselves, like, wow. That's why I do what I do now. So yes, first ask yourself why. If the answer is about controlling somebody or getting power or easy way to make money, which by the way, this is not an easy way to make money. If it's anything along those lines, you're not ready. If it's anything to do with it brings you joy, you're passionate about it, you love helping people, you feel called to guide people to their healing path, then those would be good answers. Let's see, you also add an addendum here. Like, I'm doing the work, but sometimes it feels like I have imposter syndrome. I'd say that that's probably a pretty good sign that you're on the right track. If you're not questioning, here's another marker. So the first marker is why. Ask yourself why. The second marker is, are you questioning yourself on it? Because if you're questioning yourself on it, it means you're the real deal, right? If you weren't questioning yourself on it and you thought you were the shit and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm the best, I know everything about everything there is to know about the psychic world and energy healing and whatever it is you do, energy healing through artwork, if it's like that, then you're not ready. Hell no, you're not ready. So Yeah, that's another really great marker too, is are you questioning yourself? Do you feel sometimes like you're doing things wrong, or like um I still feel the imposter syndrome sometimes, honestly. Like, if I'm being super, super honest, look, I have a full business, I have a full client load, I'm about to do a full weekend here, and I still experience imposter syndrome sometimes, right? Like, I still feel like, who am I to be doing this? Or why am I the person who should be holding space here? Or how am I not just like every other person on Instagram who's preaching spirituality? Whatever it is. And I think that's actually a really good way to keep yourself in check. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It feels it feels bad at the moment, and it might be a moment where you're questioning your self-worth, and that's something to dive into as well. That's some shadowy stuff, like, why don't I feel worthy of this? Or why don't I feel powerful enough to do this? Or why don't I feel like I'm allowed to do this? Or things like that. And that's the mark of a great practitioner, is somebody who's able to stop and question where they're at, and question, am I doing this right? Does this feel in alignment with me? Why do I feel like a fraud? Why do I, whatever it is. So let's see. Oh my God, I think all of those things to myself. This is great. Thank you so much. You're so welcome. Thank you for asking these questions, because yeah, these are really real and really, really important. So yeah, I guess those would be the markers I would say, is yeah, ask yourself why. And if the answer is about other people in addition to yourself, and it's on the same level, then you're on the right track. If you're consistently stopping, well, not consistently like every day, but like, if every once in a while you hit a block and you start questioning yourself and really looking in the mirror at yourself as a practitioner, then that's a really great sign too. And just keeping up with your work and your self-care, just and just making sure that you have time for yourself. There are a lot of practitioners who think that self-care and self-work are the same thing, and they can be. But too much self-work is not self-care, right? If you're consistently digging into yourself and you never have a break, that's not necessarily self-care either. That could be self-sabotage, or you're burning yourself out. So yeah, just making sure you're taking care of yourself, and also consistently looking at yourself. And also look at your ethics, right? Do you have ethics and boundaries written down? Do you have ethics and boundaries, maybe not written down, but at least in mind? If you go to my website, there's a full page of my ethics and practices that you can check out too. So, it's just really good practice to know where you stand and what you're willing to stand for, and what you're not willing to put up with. And so, yeah, guilty of that big time. I'm assuming you mean diving into your self-work and not necessarily self-care. Yeah, and I was too for a long time there too. I thought like, oh, okay, self-care, that means I have to always be looking at my shadows, and like, it's a 24/7 thing. And then one day I just like collapsed with sickness, and I had really bad physical problems. My foot's falling asleep. Speaking of which, I had really terrible physical problems for the whole year after I graduated college, and I was I was living with my parents for that whole year. I was out of work. I couldn't do anything because I was so sick, and all I could do was just literally all I could do was watch TV. And sometimes I'd pick up a pen and write, and sometimes I would pick up a couple colored pencils and do one of those coloring books, or like look outside. But, I was down for the count, and really that year taught me how important it is to just zone out. I'll be real. I watch a lot of TV, guys, because it's how I'm able to just like let go and zone out and not worry about anything or anyone, not even myself, right? Because I am worrying about myself in that way, not even worrying. I'm just caring for myself in that way, to just allow my mind to just like, see you later, for an hour or 3, you know? So, yeah. Shar says, ugh, physical. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? What do you mean, ugh, physical? I think there's a lag with the comments. Okay, Elise says, yes, I was about to ask you how you integrate your spiritual experiences. Yeah, literally, I mean, yes, I meditate. I meditate every morning when I wake up and every night before I go to bed, but honestly, it's short. It's short because, you know, there are there are 4 main purposes for meditation, and there are four main different types or categories of meditation that I like to think about, right? So one would be somatic, where your movement, right? So like ecstatic dance, 5 rhythms, myofascial unwinding, things like that, where you're moving and your brain isn't there, you're just moving things out. I would consider sound to be in that as well. So making music, singing, and not just like singing songs that are popular on the radio or whatever, but like, you know, just like improv stuff, or chanting or humming or mantras, things like that, where you're moving things through your body and you're moving things out. So that would be like a releasing, integrating movement meditation, right? Another type would be to recognize your thoughts and allow your thoughts to just flow, right? So I'll do a lot of meditation. A lot of my meditations at night are me just like laying in bed and allowing myself not to think, but just to let my thoughts flood my head and just follow them and just see where they go and what's happening. And that can allow for release and for realization and to allow to let things go, recognition of where you're at, you know, things like that. Another type would be like to open the third eye, which would be anything like astral projection, hedge hopping, guided meditation, guided visualization, things like that, where you're actually going on a journey, and maybe even leaving your body. You know, and that would be to strengthen your psychic body. And then the fourth one would be blank, right? Blank meditation, which allows you to access your subconscious more. And it also allows you to just zone out, and you need those moments. And so for me, and they've actually proven this too, they've done scientific studies on this, TV is my zoning out. TV is meditation for me. So in that, you know, my bedtime meditation right before bed is only like 10-15 minutes. When I wake up, same thing, 10-15 minutes, but I'm meditating 4 hours a day, right? So, you know, a lot of people shame TV, and I think there is like a lot of violent stuff that can happen on TV that's not necessarily great to be putting into your subconscious. But if you're watching things that are just kind of like, oh my gosh, you're gonna laugh at me, but my go-to is Gilmore Girls. Like, Gilmore Girls has saved my life more than once. I've watched all 7 seasons 3 times. I'm not ashamed of it. It's where I go when I need to, just because it's such a like show, right? Like, not much happens. There's not too much to worry about. There's a sense of humor. You just go. You just let go. And that's it. Hey, thanks for coming on. So that's my thought on that. Hey, Alex. Hey, Beth. Thanks for coming on. And Shar says, my physical self is wore out just thinking out loud right now. Yeah, so thanks for sharing that. That's so important to recognize, right? When we're feeling really physically worn out, or anything, right? When you're feeling mentally worn out, emotionally worn out, physically worn out. it's important to acknowledge those things and then ask yourself, what do you need, right? What do you need for that? So, yeah, just ask your body, what does it need right now? You know, maybe you can skip your workout tomorrow. Maybe you have a lot of energy trapped in your physical body and you need to release it. Maybe it is movement, right? Maybe it is some myofascial unwinding or some going for a run or something. All right. So we've got a little over 5 minutes left, which means I have time for about one more question, if you guys have any. And again, I'm going to be that person and just remind you that early bird ticket sales end tomorrow for this weekend. So if you're in Grand Rapids or you want to come over to Grand Rapids and you're like, wow, this sounds amazing, I need to do this, or you feel in your gut, you're like, I need to be there, I need this information that's about to permeate me this Saturday, and the integrative experience that I'm going to have on Sunday as I walk through my story, because that's what we're doing Sundays. We're exploring our own stories. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for it. There's a whole video, there's a whole live that I did about this as well, about this event that you can find on the Doorway to Self Facebook page, about everything that's going on at this event. So that's exciting too. No more questions. Why? Come on, I know there's something you guys are curious about. Nothing? Really? Okay, I'm gonna look and see if I think there was one more question that somebody asked anonymously. Oh, plant allies. That's right. Oh, you're so welcome, Elise. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay, let's talk about plants, because clearly I don't like them or anything. Just kidding, guys. Plant allies, what are they? So a lot of people have colloquialized this idea of spirit animals or animal totems, which is actually a really legitimately sacred thing in most Native American traditions. And it really, the way that it's been shat on, just, anyways. Plant allies are a similar thing. So just like you can have an animal that is with you, that is watching over you, whether in the physical sense or in the spiritual sense, you know, you can have plants that do the same thing. So if there's a plant or an herb or a flower or something that you really, really connect to, that would probably be your plant ally, right? So I have a friend who is obsessed with red raspberry leaf. Like obsessed with red raspberry leaf, and she leads women's circles and women's retreats and all that kind of stuff. I don't even know if she knows this is her plant ally. Maybe it's not, I don't know, she might have a different one. But you know, if there's something that you're like, always just, this is my go-to, this is my baby, you have such a connection with it, that's probably your plant ally. For me, it's mugwort. I have such, and there was, you could feel it, right? Like that, the moment that I came in contact with it for the first time, I want to say it was 4 years ago, I just felt like my whole heart just like lit up, and I just felt this heaviness, but it wasn't a bad heaviness. It was like an I'm home heaviness, right? Like it was just this deep internal connection. And so yeah, that's how you can know. Some people can have more than one, I believe. Um, or you can just be really connected with certain plants or certain things. Like I'm really connected with this little baby over here, because I grew up with it, literally. It's been around since before I was born. So, and I talk about it a lot in these psychic Q&As. So I have a really big connection with that. But you know, it can be more than a connection. It's almost like a bond. um Elise says, I'm curious about getting to know my guides by their names. Yes. And then Valerie, I'll get to that in a sec. Valerie says Nag Champa. Yeah, so yeah, you get it. Nag Champa for you. Elise says, I get, like, this is cilantro. Yeah. And some people are so perplexed by what their thing is, right? Like, why? Like, what's this is a weird thing that I'm connected to. I don't know why, but you know, if it makes you happy and it makes you smile and it brings you joy and it gives you that sense of home, and you can really feel the spirit of it, right? Like you can feel like it has, you can feel its magic, you can feel its essence. Like it's own being. It's really bizarre and amazing work. That could be more of an intuitive eating thing. It could be, it absolutely could be. You know, if you have some inflammation, and I'm not a naturopath or anything, I just happen to know this because I used to have a lot of inflammation. But if you have a lot of inflammation in your intestines, cilantro is really cooling. And so that might be something that you're craving to cool your intestines. But also, if you go to cook with cilantro and you're like, cilantro, and you can just feel it, you can feel its presence and its personality and all of that, and it just makes you feel at home, then that very well could be your plant ally as well. LOL, I want to cry and sing and dance with cilantro. Yeah, see, plant ally, done. Done. Oh my gosh. So Elise, I want to answer this question about getting to know your guides by their names. And then I'm going to say goodnight. Getting to know your guides by names. So the first question I'm going to ask you is why? Why do you need to know their names? And I get this with a lot of clients who come in who are like, I just want to know their names. I just want to know what's going on. I want to know who's with me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm all of a sudden I'm like, why? And they're like, why what? I'm like, why do you want to know their names? Why do you need to know their names? And I just sit there. I just sit there and they sit there and they're like, inevitably, every single one of them, well, I don't know. I guess I just feel like I need to. I don't know. I don't know why I need to know their names. And you don't. You don't need to know their names. It's a human thing, right? It's a natural human thing to want control. You want to know who you're interacting with, who you're talking with, who's helping you, who's guiding you, all of these things. But it's not a necessity. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, firstly, you can ask, right? You can always ask. You can always ask, what is your name? Do you mind telling me your name? They might give you a sign, right? Like you might see a billboard with the name, I don't know, Hannah on it. And then, you know, you go to a restaurant and there's the Hannah sandwich. And then you go to some sound healing event and the girl who's leading it, her partner's named Hannah. I don't know, you know, there could be so many different things, so many different iterations, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I guess my guide's name is Hannah. The name's been popping up everywhere. So it could happen that way. It could, you know, if you have clairaudience, they could just tell you. It could happen in a dream. They could come to you in a dream and tell you. There are several different ways that could happen. So I would definitely suggest you ask. If it's something that you really feel is important or you would just really, really like to know, ask. There's no harm in that. Most of the time, though, I find that those spirit guides won't answer and they'll just say, they'll either stay quiet or they'll say you already know, or which usually you do. If they say you already know, there's some part that means you probably knew them in this life, or they're an ancestor or something, and there's some innate subconscious part of you that does know. You know, so trusting that. You know, but also just knowing them by essence. That's really what's important, right? If you know their energy and you know how they interact with you and you know who they are, then that's all that really matters. The name thing is just a human thing. Elise says, yes, that makes sense. I guess it's a protection thing, and it's also, I guess, the feeling like I'm supposed to. True, always just ask and see. LOL. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I get that. You know, if you're a survivor of psychic abuse, it can be really nerve-wracking not to know who your guides are, and it's just the element of trust, unfortunately. Or fortunately, that's going to get you through. So anyways, Instagram's about to kick me off. I'm going to say goodnight. If you aren't already, follow me on Instagram at Doorway to Self, on Facebook, Doorway to Self. Sign up for my newsletter at doorwaytoself.com and get your tickets for this weekend because it's going to be amazing. Love you guys. Bye.